Assassin's Creed Black Flag. One of the best entries into the Assassin's Creed franchise, Black Flag captured the hearts and minds of gamers by being the ultimate pirate fantasy. And one integral part of that was the beloved Sea Shanties. Well, I hate to break it to you, but much like scientists, video game developers are liars sometimes.
Science is a liar sometimes.
Oh boy.
Most of the songs in the Assassin's Creed soundtrack aren't actually period accurate, and some of them aren't even sea shanties. In this video, we'll be ranking the sea shanties present on the Assassin's Creed Black Flag soundtrack, Sea Shanties Edition, Volumes 1 and 2, to see which songs are the best. That soundtrack also includes the tavern songs, so if there's interest there, we'll do a ranking for those too. Now, let's break down how we're going to determine each shanty's position on our list. Each shanty will be ranked based on a cumulative score out of 4 criteria. Historical accuracy. Shanties will be scored based on how closely their origin is to 1719, which is roughly the midpoint of the range of years the game is set in. Shanties will lose 1 point for each year they originate after this date. Shanties that originate during or before the years the game is set in receive positive points. Is it a sea shanty? A couple of these have made the game and are used as sea shanties, despite not actually being sea shanties. 50 points if it is, minus 50 if it's not. How interesting is the refrain? Shanties are work songs, designed to help keep rhythm and tempo while performing different types of work on or around a ship. But that shouldn't mean they're boring. Are the lyrics fun or dirty? And is it a fun back and forth? And lastly, how much do I like a song? Rankings are always subjective, so this will be my score based on exactly just how much I personally enjoy a song. Now, I'm no historian or expert on shanties, I'm just a fan. So a huge shout out goes to Tyler Bayo Rodriguez, who wrote up an excellent series of posts on r/badhistory, going over in a lot more detail the historical accuracy of all of the songs present in Black Flag, including those not available on the soundtrack and thus not in my list. Her post is really interesting and was an invaluable source of sources and information for me alongside my own research into this. There will be links to both of her posts in the pinned comment below, so please do give them a read as they are well worth it. Also, while you're down there, leave me a comment letting me know how your ranking differs.
It is time.
Quite comfortably in last place, Padstow's Farewell suffers from 2 big issues in our scoring system. Firstly, it loses 50 points immediately by not actually being a shanty, with its origins reportedly being from a 19th century chapbook, which were small, cheap booklets or pamphlets that would have contained short stories, ballads or religious writings, though even that is disputed. What's weird here is that there are no contemporary sources of chapbooks or any literature from that era that to date has been found supporting its origin claims, and it's mostly attested to its first recording in 1973. I've been generous and given it an early 20th century origin for scoring, but who knows. Either way, it's a couple of hundred years after Black Flag, and honestly, one of my least favourite songs on the soundtrack. It's melancholic, but not in an interesting way, and honestly, I find it kind of boring.
Now you're ready to sail for the
Despite getting high points from me personally, as I do actually really enjoy this song, it has a rather fun refrain with its bouncy way haze and rhyming lyrics that mock ship officers for their well-kept dress uniforms, and is almost reminiscent of a ship gently rocking on the sea. But it greatly suffers from historical accuracy because while the song has been around since the early 1800s, the lyrics used in Black Flag were written in 1917.
In Amsterdam there lived a maid.
Maid of Amsterdam is another song that gets a middling score from me and suffers greatly from historical accuracy, a theme for many on this list. It almost scored extremely well by actually predating Black Flag by about 100 years, originating, but the lyrics for this version were likely hugely different from the version used in Black Flag, which is closer to a version dating from the 1880s. I also just don't really like it much. A song warning sailors of the health perils of sex workers, but it just doesn't really do it for me.
Whiskey is the life of man.
Dating from somewhere around the mid-19th century, this is another that loses a huge number of points for historical accuracy, though it makes them back up with a fun refrain, if not my favourite song from the soundtrack. There have been some suggestions that this could be another song with an Elizabethan origin, and its exact use as a shanty is unclear.
Hey boys, Oh, don't you see?
Goodbye Fare Ye Well would have been sung on homeward bound journeys, and like many songs on this list, probably dates from around the mid-19th century, probably somewhere in the region of 1840. This is another that I noted as having a decent refrain, with its chorus singing farewell in response to the lead, but it absolutely didn't resonate with me as much as maybe some other tracks do.
Hey, well, heave him up.
Used for pumping and cargo loading, likely on board cotton ships, it has its origins in the mid-19th century slave trade. And I really like the refrain on this one. It flips back between going up and going down, again almost like a ship on the sea. But there was just something about Me Susianah that I found a little dull. It's a three-way tie for the final position before the top 10, and all of these earn their scores in the same way, as songs that I actually quite like and found to have enjoyable refrains, but ultimately suffer greatly for their historical accuracy, as they are all originating from the 19th century.
Come all you young sailormen, listen.
Fish in the Sea originates with English fishermen and sings about coming together through stormy weather blowing the ship around. It's easy to sing along, and one of the many songs in the soundtracks that does a great job of sticking in your head once you've heard it.
I dreamed a dream.
Lowlands Away is one of the songs that I instantly think of when I think of Black Flag, originating from either a Scottish or English ballad lamenting a visit from a dead lover. As a shanty, it laments low pay and either the loss of a lover through death or being left behind during a voyage. It's interesting and has a beauty to its melancholy that makes it hard not to want to take part in.
Running down to Cuba with a load of sugar.
Lastly in this trio is Running Down to Cuba. A strange one among the work songs of shanties, as this is believed to not really have had a purpose, just a fun way of killing downtime. And I think that is reflected in its fun lyrics and refrain. Like the other two, it also suffers from being vaguely dated to around the mid-19th century, putting it almost 150 years too late for Black Flag.
Ready, boys? The mate was drunken.
So Early in the Morning is supposedly a variation on Drunken Sailor, which you can kind of hear in the refrain. I'm not really convinced on that one, it feels like a bit of a stretch, but if it is, well, the original is also on this soundtrack, and in my opinion, much better. Still, it gets an alright score from me. It's relatively fun, with a decently engaging refrain, and you guessed it, it loses points for originating about 120 years too late.
Billy Riley. Old Billy Riley was
We're starting to get into the territory of earlier songs now that benefit from being slightly more historically accurate, but it's still over 100 years away from Black Flag, originating once again from slave dock workers loading cottons onto ship in the mid-19th century. Billy Riley has a decent refrain and is a fun and energetic song, but is perhaps less interesting lyrically than some of the other songs on this list.
All right, lads. Where am I to go?
Narrowly beating out Billy Riley by 2 points, Where Am I to Go, My Johnnies is the song in the top 10 that I actually like the least. It has a good refrain and interesting lyrics, but I just don't like it. Where it does benefit though, is that it's the first song in our list to be less than 100 years out from Black Flag's golden age of piracy.
A poor old man came riding by and we
Dead Horse is another song that originates from the mid-19th century, but this time I actually really like it. The refrain of "and we say so, and we know so" is simple but fun to take part in, and coupled with some tongue-in-cheek lyrics about the consequences of sailors' debt, often sung to celebrate the end of a sailor's first month on a ship, where their initial debt to a ship would have been paid off and they'd actually start earning their own money. The lyrics sing of a dead horse, a metaphor for sailors who, once they made their deals, couldn't go back on it, even if they had nothing to show for their first month work as a sailor. Sailors were expected to use their first month's pay in advance on tools that they would need for the voyage, hence the initial debt. But many would get taken advantage of or waste it on drink and women.
Oh, Sally Brown, she's the gal for
In Roll Boys Roll, we have another song that originates from the 19th century slave trade, this time from British Jamaican slave colonies around the 1830s. It's another upbeat and energetic song about heading to a ship at the beginning of a voyage. The ship is referenced to as a woman, and many of the lyrics would have been considered obscene or innuendo. Either way, it's a fun song to listen to, easy to sing along with, and Roll Boys Roll makes for a great back and forth refrain. Spanish Ladies is another really interesting song featured in Black Flag. While one of the few songs that is relatively contemporary, with an origin to around 1796, it's also the only song on our list that received half points for being a shanty, because technically it's not. It's a broadside ballad that would have been printed on a single sheet of broadside paper to cheaply sell to crowds to sing in taverns and at events like public executions. Spanish Ladies is sung from the perspective of British soldiers leaving the Iberian Peninsula after Britain sent supplies to Spain during the War of the First Coalition. The British sailors were rewarded greatly, but Spanish women were forbidden as a reward, and so the song laments having to say goodbye to them. The song actually predates what we would consider sea shanties, and was almost forgotten about until its inclusion in an 1840 novel, Poor Jack, when its author, Captain Frederick Marryat, sought to rescue it from oblivion. When sea shanties saw a mid-19th century revival, Spanish Ladies also saw a revival, and is now often considered a borrowed or honorary shanty. I thought that was a pretty interesting bit of history, so I gave it half points for kind of being a sea shanty, but not really. On top of that, it actually scores quite big from me. Easy to sing along to, great refrain, and another song that really stuck in my head for a while after a listen. Not much to say here, this is the ultimate classic example of a sea shanty. Drunken Sailor is known far and wide for its pondering on just what do you do with a drunken sailor. It's still a little late for Black Flag, with the first written description originating in the Journal of a Whaling Voyage from 1839, but its easy to sing refrain and comedic lyrics with variations focusing on either punishing or sobering up the sailor in question ensured that it saw a revival through the 20th century to become easily the most well-known of all of the sea shanties.
I thought I heard the old
This is probably my all-time favourite sea shanty, and while the version from Black Flag isn't my favourite rendition, it's still a fantastic song. It is unfortunately another mid-19th century song, so it does lose points there, but it's a damn good shanty, and getting basically maximum points from me wasn't enough to see it higher on the list. It's used somewhat incorrectly in the game too, as it was historically sung during the end of a voyage as a goodbye to the ship, often when its bilge was being pumped, and it was considered extremely bad form, if not obscene, to sing it prior to this. But we'll forgive Black Flag for that sin, as it is truly great. Melancholic goodbye, it still manages to be a little tongue-in-cheek with its lyrics referencing the ship's crew and poor conditions, despite the refrain calling for Johnny to leave her, managing to feel as though the sailors are needing to be dragged away from a ship that they had come to call home.
Oh, my name was Captain Kidd, as I say.
It's taken a little while, but we've finally hit a song that is actually period accurate. The catch is, it's not actually a sea shanty. Also known as the Ballad of Captain Kidd, this is another broadside ballad, published following the public hanging of Captain Kidd in London on May 23rd, 1701, and was popular enough to have survived via oral tradition until it was first recorded in the 1960s, and is also reportedly a childhood favourite of Mormonism founder Joseph Smith. Not only is it a cool bit of history, but its lyrics are pretty cool too. A somewhat morbid detailing of the crimes that led to Kidd's conviction from his perspective, that likely would have served as partially to inform crowds of who he was and what had happened, partially to mock him, and partially as a reminder to others of what would happen should you commit such crimes. And on top of it all, it's a pretty decent and easy to sing refrain too.
We are outward bound for...
In the top spot is Good Morning Ladies All, only beating out Captain Kidd by a single point. Another shanty with a hard to pinpoint origin date that likely originates from slaves loading cotton into ships with jack screws, so that makes it at least 19th century. It's a slower one but remains upbeat, with lyrics singing about heading down south to Kingston Town and looking forward to spending hard-earned coin on strong drink and fun women. Couple it with a simple refrain of With a heave-ho-haul and Good Morning Ladies All, and it becomes an easy to sing along earworm, so much so that I actually hadn't liked it much at first, but quickly caught myself humming it to myself whilst cleaning, and ended up enjoying it quite a lot. So there we have it, a somewhat semi-scientifically proven ranking list for all of the sea shanties present on the Assassin's Creed soundtrack. Now yes, there are some that appear in-game, and some variations that appear in-game that aren't included on this list, and well, that's because they're not on the soundtrack. If it's not on the soundtrack, it doesn't get in. Let me know what your favourite songs are from the Assassin's Creed soundtrack. Are there any that aren't on the soundtrack but in-game that you enjoy that should have made the list? And let me know if you want to see a ranking of the tavern songs. They're a little bit more historically accurate and they're a lot more fun. So I'd be more than happy to do that if people want to see it. In the meantime, let me know if this is the kind of content you enjoy. I'm always looking at new directions to take the channel, see what works and what is enjoyable. So, thank you for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And I'll see you in port.